Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our second policy workshop focusing today on the topic of curriculum. So before we start, I think that we are all aligned when it comes to the different rules. So a recording is taking place. In case you don't want for yourself to be seen, make sure that you keep the cameras and everything off. And also, if you want to participate, feel free to raise your hand, but also you can use the chat in order to ask questions, but also to share interesting resources that you are accustomed to and they are related to today's topic. Before we start, let's have a look at our agenda as well. So we are starting with kind of this opening session where we are setting pretty much the scene of the workshop. So we are going to provide you with some background information on the work we have done on the Blue Education Framework and on the specific topic of the curriculum. Then we will have the opportunity to hear from our three speakers. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about them as we move forward. And after this type of introduction, then we're going to move to a more interactive discussion. So we have some questions for our speakers, but we will also be very happy to see you being part of this exchange as well. So all this, I think it's going to pretty much bring us to the end of what we hope that is going to be a very efficient and productive workshop for everyone. So let's move on. So first of all, let's start with our setting the scene session. So for that one, I would like to ask my colleague, Ivana Kovac. She's a project lead at European Schoolnet. She has been a powerful force behind the development of the framework to tell us a little bit more about this aspect, this topic of curriculum. Ivana, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Evita, for this nice introduction and welcome everyone to our session. And thank you very much, Rivol, for the technical support in this event as well. So my name is Ivana Kovac, as Evita mentioned, and together with a great team of BlueLightS project partners, we worked on this framework for strengthening Blue education in Europe. Miha, if we can go to the next slide, please. So today, before we dive into the topic, I would also like to provide you just with some background information on Blue Education Framework, which is the backbone of today's workshop. A couple of more slides back, please. So the framework for strengthening Blue education is prepared in order to respond to the need to tackle the current challenges we have in Blue education. It maps the key drivers of change, and it also provides examples and steps, actionable steps that we can take on individual level, on school level, or even on a national level. We launched the framework on January 19th this year, so I don't know if some of you in the audience had also the opportunity to participate. If you haven't, it is also recorded, so you can go to the BlueLightS website and then take a look at the presentation. There we presented the core principles of framework, we presented it structured, and also talked a bit about the purpose of it. In this way, we actually wanted to open a dialogue with leading education actors to get your insights and to see how we can also refine this moving forward. And following the same aim, which is to enrich the framework and to learn more about the practical application in Europe, we are organizing now these thematic workshops on the topics that are elaborated in the framework. The webinar on national strategies was held in February. That was the first one when it comes to these thematic workshops, and you can again access it on the webpage. Our current session today is focusing on curricula, and here we also invite you to save the dates for the upcoming workshops, which are going to be on the 27th of April and 28th of May, and they will focus on educational resources and professional development and teacher training. But now let's go to our next slide, and here let's actually go back to the topic of today and see what are the objectives we aim to achieve with this session. We will briefly present you with the framework curriculum section. And with our speakers today, we will showcase some examples from Belgium, more specifically from Flanders, and also Portugal. We will also gather some insights from Germany from our speaker, who is an expert in sustainable education and who will provide a perspective from Education for Sustainable Development on this topic. Let's go to the next slide, where we will start with the definition. On the next slide, you have the definition of the curriculum. What is the curriculum? It is actually a structured plan that guides what students learn, how do they learn it, and what are actually the goals of the education. And across Europe, curriculum decisions are different, and they depend on whether the systems are centralized or decentralized. If we go to the next slide, we will see also some other efforts that are made. So we mentioned that having a system which is centralized, for example, which is the case in France or Greece, schools can follow a national curriculum, which ensures consistency. On the other hand, if the system is decentralized, like, for example, in Spain or here in Belgium, local authorities and educators have a bit more influence and they have a bit more flexibility when it comes to the curriculum, and they can actually address more regional needs better. When it comes to European level, the European Union is working towards more aligned and more inclusive systems through some initiatives like, for example, European Education Area. But at the same time, there is also the growing recognition that education must address the global challenges and particularly the environmental crisis. And this includes integrating education for sustainable development, and such as the climate and ocean literacy, into the curricula. However, it is not that simple to do this because it is not happening all around Europe. It's not developed all across European countries. And although environmental topics are being included more and more, the content related to ocean literacy and also freshwater is often limited, and it gets fragmented, and it sometimes depends on the capabilities and knowledge of individual teachers. It is mainly taught within subjects like science and geography, and it is rarely addressed in a really consistent way. And that is something that we also have in the resources you see here on the slide, because overall, there are disparities between countries, and they are influenced by different factors. Some of them can be also geographical, because we would always assume that if the country has an exit to the sea, by default, the country has developed ocean literacy and water literacy knowledge. It is not always the case, because even in coastal countries, many inland communities remain still disconnected from the marine topics. And overall, from the studies we mentioned here and the studies we focused on in our framework, the experts recommend revising curricula to better include ocean literacy and freshwater topics through practical knowledge, through digital and interactive approaches, and to have some clear and measurable learning goals. On the next slide, slide 10, we are just giving you an overview of maturity levels. If you attended our previous sessions, you already know that in this framework, we try to identify maturity levels for all key aspects that need to be changed. Those are national strategies, curricula, professional development, educational resources, and resources related to human effort and funding. For each of these topics, we always identify 4 levels, which we described in those sections. Here we have them briefly presented for you when it comes to curriculum. And you can see that, for example, at level 1, Blue education is largely absent, or it is minimally included in the curriculum. There is some awareness when it comes to students and teachers. There is some awareness of sustainability goals, but that is not the case overall, and we cannot take it as a definitive guidance. At level 2, it gets, let's say, a bit better. There is more visibility to Blue education within subjects like geography, science, biology, but it is not really taught independently. And at level 3, it expands. It expands more from the classroom. It goes also into informal learning. And here we talk about the students who engage in clubs, in workshops, in special activities, and even schools can offer dedicated lessons to include these topics. There are also the recognition systems, such as the network of European Blue Schools, and those networks emerge, and which also highlight the schools and the teachers who actively promote Blue education. And finally, at level 4, the Blue education is fully embedded in the national curriculum, and it is supported by funding, training, and resources. The question we will also want to tackle today is, can we think of a different maturity level of, let's say, ideal maturity level on how this Blue segment is integrated in the curriculum? Later in this workshop, you will also have the opportunity to add your comments on this because we prepared a Padlet for you. If we go to the next slide, please. We are just going to remind you that also in the framework you have examples from several countries to give you a better picture of this progression, because progressing from level 1 to level 4, this helps the Blue education to advance from being minimal to or absent to being really fully integrated in a country. I will give the floor back to Evita now, because we have speakers today who can tell us more how it is in their countries and give us a better picture of the overall state, how it is when it comes to initiatives, activities, and other news from these countries. Evita?
Thank you very much, Ivana. Thank you for the thorough presentation. Thank you for reminding us about the maturity level and for kind of posing the first question. So as a reminder to what Ivana said, we have the Padlet. So feel free to start reflecting on this little challenge of thinking whether there are other or more maturity levels that can be added to the 4 that Ivana went through. And of course, if you also have any other material that you would like to share. So indeed, the time has come for us to turn to our experts. So let's move on to our next slide to first see who our experts are, and then we will start by giving them the floor. So first of all, we have with us Luc Zwartjes from the University of Ghent. So he has been affiliated with the Department of Geography at University of Ghent as a researcher and teacher training, and he's continuing his work on digital geotools and innovative education. So we're looking forward to hear from Luc. Then we also have with us Rita Borges from the Oceano de Lisboa. So Rita is responsible for the school program over there. She has also been the head of Ciencia Viva, an organization that has been doing a lot of work in the area that we are focusing on. And she also holds a PhD in marine ecology. So we definitely have a lot to learn from Rita. And last but not least, we have Marco Rieckmann with us from University of Vechta. And Marco is our expert in education for sustainable development. So let's start first by hearing a little bit more from Luc.
Hello, good morning to you all. I'm briefly going to present the situation in Belgium, more precisely in Flanders, about how to navigate the Blue curriculum, how we integrate this framework that you developed or try to integrate it into our curriculum in Belgium. Now, we have a very difficult country, Belgium is a bit complex, we're small, but it doesn't matter, we try to make things sometimes a bit more difficult, I am afraid. So you have the EU mission, we want to restore our ocean and waters, so there's European directives, the BlueLightS framework you developed, and of course we want to integrate it, but then we need to go through some different roads. First of all, as said, Belgium is divided into a Dutch-speaking, French-speaking and German-speaking part for education. The Flemish government has made attainment targets, in Dutch we call them eindtermen, which are in fact the targets that each school should reach on class level. Now these are just short lines with explanation. And what happens then is that these attainment targets are translated into curricula, but this is not done by the government. This is done by different organizations, like for instance the Catholic education in Flanders schools, or which I'm also representing. We have the official education, Go Onderwijs. And we have even also schools from cities and local authorities and provincial education. So very complex. But each of them wants to create then a curriculum. But there we have a first problem. In each of them, the blue education is not explicitly mandated. So it's more to the individual teacher for the moment to see if he's willing to integrate more or less of this. As said, there are 4 levels in that maturity matrix that you developed in the BlueLightS. If we look at situation in Flanders, we could say that for the moment we are on level 2 more or less. So there are fragments existing in geography and sciences, and in fact we should try to reach up to the next level, the strategic level of having it more institutionalized. If we look more in detail to each of the curricula, if we look at geography, there we have already some aspects of oceanography or ocean literacy involved, like coastal morphology, the basic ocean currents, the standard water cycle, but we miss the more systemic thinking linked to waterways, or the socio-economic impacts of blue economy is not into the curriculum. If we look at the sciences, then we speak about marine biodiversity and the basic terrestrial plastic pollutions, but the ocean climate interactions is not really there, and experimental data collection, citizen science is not really there. If we look at agriculture techniques, there, okay, agriculture and also fishing industry, basic water needs is a bit mentioned, but you see there's a lot missing, like sustainable aquaculture, impact of agriculture runoff, implementation of circular water systems is not in the curriculum. If we talk about more the STEM education, then we don't really have a real link to what could be linked to ocean, and it should be there, I think. When we talk about citizenship, yes, there's a general environmental awareness and terrestrial recycling protocols, but the active blue citizenship is not there. Also engaging local water governments and advocacy or ethical consumption related to the sea is not there. Just to mention, if we look at the attitude in Belgium, I'm always afraid when the first nice weather day will come again for the sea, because then mostly after that day our beaches are just one big belt of all rubbish that has been left by the tourists. It's a pity. About history and culture, yes, we talk about the trade routes, but we don't talk about the maritime heritage we have or the evolution of human impact on the North Sea. So there's a lot possible. And of course, this has to do with the fact, if we look at Belgium, we see only this small part, 65 kilometers, is really addressed or located at the seaside. So for people from the other side of Belgium, they sometimes think, well, what's the link we have with the ocean? It's a far away history for us. Well, no, we should make sure to them that it's in fact all connected, because what you do here at the east of Flanders, through the rivers, it has an impact on the ocean and vice versa. So every school in Flanders is in fact located to a gateway to the ocean. So it's not a far away history, it should be involved. If we look at the potential we have, the self-assessment tool, which is also available in the framework, then we see that we don't school, well, on flag of policy integration, it's rather low. Curriculum mapping, yes, more or less. Teacher training, yes, but it's not really there. Inclusivity, it's there, but you see on many aspects we don't score very well. And this has to do with the fact that there's a kind of a professional development gap. The Flemish teachers, they want indeed to learn something, but there's a lack of background confidence in marine and freshwater sciences, because the continuous professional education is mostly specialized on aquatic ecosystems. Initial teacher training doesn't really embed blue education so much, and the cross-disciplinary training, where we talk about STEAM, and on STEM education, it's not really linked to, let's say, ocean issues. So if we want to tackle it, there should be a roadmap. The first step is we should acknowledge the gap that there is between what is there for the moment and what we should get. That means we should cross-pollinate, try to break out the geography silo, because mostly in geography it is now present, and in the new curriculum will come in a few years, it will even enlarge, because we talk now more and more in education of geography that we can't just focus on the land, we must also focus on 3/4 of this globe, which is the ocean. And it was a bit neglected in the past, but we're catching up. But it's not only enough in geography, it should be all over the curricula, because in many aspects it can be learned. And we should empower the network by localizing blue notes to provide schools with more resources. That means, in fact, we should transform the pedagogies beyond the textbook, from traditional absorption, where we have isolated facts, which is now the case in all these different subjects, to more experiential learning with a lot of field work, data collection, where people, even that are far away from the sea, know we do collection of fresh water, which has influence on the oceans as well, to finally, in fact, a more open schooling by breaking down the classroom walls to collaborate more with local communities, local NGOs, and thus have, in fact, a better view on the whole system. That means also streamlining educational resources. They are now there. We have a lot of information, a lot of resource, but they're fragmented, not always in Dutch, and they're not always connected to the local Flemish ecosystem or school system. So we should try to find a more centralized open education resources, which are directly targeted to the leerplandoelen, the curriculum goals, and this making it easier for teachers to involve it or include it in the classroom. And finally, we should indeed try to have a kind of more educational notes in Flanders. The Flemish schools should have more connection with science centers and research by partnering with institutions like the VLIS, the Flemish Institute of the Sea, Technopolis, which is a science center, and other data and research centers that can help. We should connect to the blue economy, certainly when we talk about citizenship and more economic and geography, socioeconomic themes, where we can connect with ports, sustainable aquaculture, but also the importance of the ocean as a place for not only food gathering, but also for climate, also for energy, etc. And finally, also the local municipalities, because this is beyond the classroom. These are things that we should try to involve more or less into the society. So this is in a nutshell what in fact the curriculum in Flanders is about. It is there for the moment. We have already some aspects of the blue economy and the blue curriculum, let's say, but it's too much fragmented. We should try to work more together and involve to a higher level.
Thank you very much, Luc. You touch upon all sorts of issues that I hope we will have the opportunity to discuss more in the next part of the discussion. So you highlighted the issue of professional development gap as a bottleneck. You have also mentioned about the need to transform pedagogies, so move from, let's say, classical, traditional pedagogies to more experiential ones, to open schooling as well. Very, very interesting points that we will love to explore more. And you also touched upon the issue of the fragmentation of resources, that indeed a lot of information, a lot of resources are available out there. But of course, if we want to connect them to a very specific educational system and the educational goals that you mentioned, then another approach needs to be taken. So thank you very much for that. We will come back to some of those points soon. But now let's move on and let's hear from Rita. Rita, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. So in Portugal, I work for the Oceano de Lisboa and the Oceano Azul Foundation. And we designed the program in 2018, started in 2018, that really wants to include the ocean into the curriculum. And so what we did was designing a program that would include Can you share the slides, please?
Yes, this should be coming.
Okay, so and we designed this program called Educating a Blue Generation. That basically was when we decided what should we include in this program. We decided that we should have the tools that help teachers overcoming the problems or the barriers that prevent them to talk more about the ocean in class. And so we conceived this pilot program that helps the teachers with training, with certified training, and with, can you hear me? I'm not sure that.
Yes, we can hear you, Rita.
Okay. I don't see anyone. And so what we did was that we consider the teachers at the core of this model, and we designed a training that helps teachers being more confident and empowering them to talk about the ocean in a cross-cutting way. So we included a certified training and educational resources that guide them on how to talk about the ocean when teaching mathematics or sciences or Portuguese. And with a very holistic approach on our relationship with the ocean. Because it's not just about science. We try to go beyond the traditional ocean.
Rita, can I interrupt you? I'm sorry.
Yes?
Nobody can see the slides.
No, I don't see them. But I'm
no,
talking
so sorry to interrupt you, but I think we should show the slides first.
Yeah, Revolve team is working on that. Misha, can you please upload the slides? So, and Rita, feel free to continue with the narrative. And Misha is working on the slides.
No worries, no worries.
Ivana, sorry, Rita, for interrupting. Evita, do you have the slides? Because I cannot access them. For some reason, it says that we cannot check the safety of the website when I'm trying to access it through WeTransfer.
In that case, if we can ask Rita, if you have slides next to you, if you can open them and then share your screen.
Just a minute.
That would be the easiest.
Let me open the presentation.
Okay. Sorry for technical difficulties. No, it's live event, so this happens.
Okay, so that slide has the overall scheme of the model that we thought. So we decided that we should include a very holistic approach to ocean literacy that would go beyond science. So it's not just about science, and we included, of course, the way how marine ecosystems work and function, and about biodiversity, and but we also included the ecosystem services concept, and also the principles of sustainable blue economy, and also the law of the sea. So it's not just about science. It's because our relationship with the ocean is very complex, and we included, of course, the history and the relationship of humankind with the ocean a long time, and also the special relationship between the Portuguese and the ocean, the cultural relationship. So, of course, we talk about the problems affecting the ocean and the solutions and issues or measures like implementing marine protected areas, but in this overview, in very multidisciplinary approach of our relationship with the ocean. And we decided to focus this program on the first cycle of basic education. So targeting teachers that teach kids between 6 and 10 years old, and as a tool that would help them including the ocean into the curriculum. So it's not a project, it's not seen as a project, but as a curricular program that helps teachers in their daily work. And with a very hands-on approach. So we decided that we should guide the teachers on carrying practical hands-on activities that could help them developing the competencies that we want to develop in this 21st century. So, teachers receive the training and receive the educational resources and guiding matrix that we will see in the next slide. So something I didn't mention in the slide before is that within our model, it was very important that we would connect and partnership with several stakeholders. At the beginning, we went to the Ministry of Education, and it was really important that we had this connection and this partnership, this collaboration that helped us validating all the contents and the alignment with the current curriculum. And then we decided that we should implement this model in a very consistent way at the local level. And so we connected with some pilot municipalities. And the idea was that within these municipalities, we would try to engage most of the teachers of this primary level into this program. And of course, connecting with the principals and also the certification centers for teachers training. And then we tried to train most of the teachers. And so far, we have more than 1,500 teachers from 8 pilot municipalities and the Azores region with this training that received the materials and that are implementing this program in more than 300 schools in Portugal. And so, not just implementing the program within these pilot sites, but also evaluating. That was a prerequisite from the beginning for us, that we should evaluate impact. And so we performed this longitudinal evaluation assessment along 4 years that allowed us to improve. We identified what should be improved, and also the confidence that the program was useful for the teachers, the resources, the contents helped them in their daily practice. And also that the students are more ocean literate now. They are more aware, they are more willing to act towards ocean conservation. And so this is the resources that we provide the teachers. You have a handbook with all the contents that deepens what is learned in the training. And then we give the schools this box with some nice cards that help the teachers implementing the hands-on activities. And between the book and the box, you see a matrix that is what helps aligning the activities with the current curriculum. And during the pandemics, of course, we had to adapt, and we developed a digital platform, which is a Moodle that now serves two purposes. We have it as the basis for the training teachers' actions, but also as a community with shared resources in which and through which we can communicate with teachers and challenge them constantly for going outside of school with this open school as well view, and with the help and the collaboration of the municipalities, bringing students outside the class to the community and to take action to the ocean. And we developed this children book collection that was something that was identified also by the teachers as a tool that would be needed. And with this, we, after 4 years, and can you pass to the next slide, please? After 4 years of implementation, we showed the Minister of Education by that time the results of the impact assessment, and there was a willingness that to scale up the program to all the Portuguese schools. And we were challenged to implement a working group that was led by the Ministry of Education, and that involved different stakeholders like the Blue Schools, representative schools, teachers, etc. And we recommended on how to scale up the program to all the Portuguese schools, and that we also should, in parallel, review the curricular frameworks. And also, we've been trying to define what should, and trying to engage with policies, of course. And we were lucky to participate in this high-level panel on the teaching profession. And we could include their recommendation to include ocean and climate literacy into curricula and to prepare teachers with training and good educational resources. And we also defined what should be, because we were asked by the Ministry of Education to do so. We identified what should be the set of principles, values, and competencies that the student that would be subject to this ocean education along the compulsory education should have. And with this Blue Generation Students profile, that it is pretty much based on the competencies that Education for Sustainable Development, of course, should include. And it's like a framework that is also a guiding document for this Blue education. Can you go to the next slide, please? And so with this political commitment, we are waiting for the signature. It's still oral only, so we are waiting for this signature of an MOU with the Ministry of Education to go forward. Because in the meantime, the government changed twice, and the commitment continues, but we are still waiting to really start implementing this scaling up of the program. But in the meantime, last year we had the chance, the ministry asked us to contribute to this curricular revision, and in which we identified in all the essential learnings that guide the curriculum from the first to the second grade. We identified every opportunity where we could bring a more blue lens to these essential learnings. And we delivered this document for a more blue curriculum to the Portuguese government last year in February. And until now, we didn't get any feedback, but we just heard that it was on Friday, just launched an open consultancy for this essential learning. So we are just on the way to try to understand what was there left and what can we still propose to be included. And I think that's it. We can finalize now with the video if there is time. Otherwise, I would simply put the link for if everyone wants to watch the video of the program, because if we are having trouble with the connection, I don't know if that would be a good idea now.
I can quickly share the video, and if there isn't any problem with it, we can just share it in the chat.
Okay, I will leave here in the chat the link to this orientation document. I mentioned the profile of the Blue students, in case anyone wants to check.
Devemos tratar do mar. Não podemos deitar lixo para o mar? Ajudar ao oceano é o nosso papel.
Sem o oceano não haveria vida na Terra e é fundamental que todos compreendam a importância que este sistema tem para o equilíbrio do planeta. E esta consciência deve começar desde cedo, integrada na educação das crianças, que serão os líderes do futuro. A Fundação Oceano Azul e o Oceanário de Lisboa, em colaboração com a Direção-Geral da Educação, desenharam um programa educativo que integra o oceano no currículo do primeiro ciclo e que tem os professores no centro desta transformação.
Quando a Fundação Oceano Azul apresentou o programa Educar para a Geração Azul ao Ministério da Educação, foi um passo muito importante, porque percebemos também a preocupação de que tínhamos que inserir no currículo a literacia do oceano. Uma iniciativa da sociedade civil que se converte numa política pública de criar este currículo, que é um currículo do saber, mas também é um currículo para a ação.
Desde que fiz a formação, sinto que os meus alunos ficaram mais alerta para os problemas existentes. Dar a conhecer aquilo que existe é meio caminho andado para podermos proteger e salvar aquilo que nós temos. É uma espécie de força motriz. Primeiro temos que ser nós os exemplos como professores, para depois levarmos para dentro das salas de aula de uma forma correta e formar a tal geração Azul.
Todas as componentes curriculares eram ligadas ao oceano. Essa foi a grande mudança que aconteceu. Fizemos limpezas de praia, viemos ao oceanário, os alunos investigavam determinadas espécies. Foi muito gratificante perceber que esta disciplina estava a ter impacto não só nos alunos, mas sim nas famílias também.
O oceano é a casa que todos merecemos ter. Temos um grande desafio comum: proteger esta grande casa.
Tendo atenção que nós vivemos no arquipélago dos Açores, é o mar que nos une todas estas 9 ilhas. Os alunos em Santa Maria já têm a percepção de que todas estas atividades que eles estão a desenvolver têm um impacto no meio ambiente. É mais fácil nós mudarmos as mentalidades dos nossos alunos desde pequeninos.
O oceano é o pulmão da Terra, que sem ele não vivemos. É a casa de muitos animais e plantas. Esta coleção é muito importante. O meu pai precisa de ler este livro. Então nós não podemos tirar muito lá, porque se tirarmos tudo, já não temos nada. Se eu fosse o oceano, eu dizia-vos: parem de estragar a minha linda beleza. Se o oceano fica poluído, não podemos ter água potável para beber e também não podemos ter peixe para comer. Mas só que nós também comemos o que ele tem na barriga, que é o lixo.
Estamos a desenvolver um projeto de classificação do Recife Rochoso Pedra do Valado e com esta área de classificação é muito importante que inclua os nossos alunos também. E daí que esse programa vai desenvolver e dar maior proximidade e valorizar aquilo que nós temos, em particular nesta costa, mas nos oceanos em geral.
Protegendo o mar, dando a conhecer todas as suas potencialidades, os jovens que conseguem assumir esse papel são verdadeiros cidadãos do mundo, porque esta problemática é uma problemática universal. Nós, Câmara de Sintra, pretendemos chamar os jovens a um conhecimento muito próximo dos oceanos.
Após estes 5 anos e a avaliação de impacto, nós podemos dizer que temos aqui um modelo que pode ser replicado. Temos mais literacia do oceano nas nossas escolas.
O objetivo agora seria conseguir escalar este programa para a escala nacional, chegar aos mais de 20 mil professores do primeiro ciclo de educação, conseguir formá-los da maneira competente, empenhada, mobilizadora com que a Fundação Oceano Azul, com o apoio do Oceanário de Lisboa, conseguiu até agora. Nós achamos que esta é a maneira de conseguirmos transformar uma geração de cidadãos mais azuis, mais conscientes da importância do oceano para as suas vidas, para a vida do país, para a vida do planeta, o que obviamente iria também ser um fator de qualificação de toda a cidadania portuguesa.
Thank you very much, Rita, for the presentation and for the lovely video. You really took us there in the action with the students and everything. Now, when it comes to the presentation, as I was listening to you, I was thinking that you are pretty much answering to the points that Luc raised. So basically, in the issue of professional development, you have presented us with this very, very specific, very targeted teacher training program, where you introduce all these different types of more active pedagogies as well. You are also thinking about the issues of resources, of how you try to tailor the resources to align them with the curricula. So it's really interesting to see, from an issue a possible solution, despite the fact that, of course, it needs to be scaled up to national level. So I hope we can also have the time to discuss this later. So thank you very much. And let's move on to hear from Marco.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me also try to share my slides. Let's see, but that seems to work. Okay, yeah, as announced in the beginning already, I'm not really an expert for Blue education, but for education for sustainable development. My name is Marco Rieckmann, as was said already. I'm professor of higher education development at the University of Vechta in Germany. And at the same time, I'm also co-sharing a UNESCO chair of physical education and sport pedagogy for sustainable development at the University of Limerick in Ireland. So my focus is on education for sustainable development, sustainability competencies, especially curriculum development, teacher education, and also especially the whole institution approach. And so, yes, I said I will try to bring in here a specific, or a bit broader, not so specific, a broader and strategic education for sustainable development perspective. My first thesis would be, and that somehow was said already by the two other speakers, is that curricula can be enablers, but are not a guarantee. They provide legitimacy, orientation, entry points, but there may be an implementation gap, as also was stated, for example, by Luc. One issue there can be the teacher competencies. Later I can share also a slide to a program in which we developed, a European consortium developed a framework describing what are the most important teaching competencies in education for sustainable development. But it is also the institutional support, what is linked also to the whole institution approach. So it's not just about changing classroom activities and project-based activities, it's also to include sustainability and blue elements of sustainability into the institution as such. So if we speak about a university, for example, it is about campus activities, it's about student initiatives, it's about what is going on in the canteen, etc. And that brings also new learning environments that are, as I said, not only in the classroom, but also not only in projects, they can be also on campus, in the school canteen, in school initiatives, in collaboration with parents, etc. So my key message here would be curricula are important as door openers, but we also have to ensure that anyone can walk through these doors. Second, and that was stated somehow also already, is the idea from content to competencies. In many contexts, we still may need more content on oceans, but it should not be only the content, it should be also the competencies from a sustainability perspective. And I'm sharing here or showing a small figure, which was published in an article by Rita Borges and others, in which in an international Delphi study, they confirmed the most important sustainability competencies. There you can see, for example, the system thinking competency, but also the future-oriented competencies and others. And so the idea is that really learners learn how or become able to understand not only complexity, but also to deal with uncertainty, to act for sustainability. And so that that really needs different approaches that, as I said, not only include sustainability and ocean-oriented contents, but really make possible or use action-oriented transformative pedagogy that enables this kind of competence-based learning. So my key message here would be that it is not only about what we teach, and it's also about how we teach and what learners are able to do with this knowledge. And third and last thesis would be that it shouldn't be just an add-on. I mean, it's easy to add a little bit here, add a little bit there. But then blue education and sustainability in general may become just an additional topic. But what is needed really is a cross-cutting integration in all subjects, not only in sciences and geography, but also citizenship education. And as I mentioned sport and physical education already, yes, also in physical education, sustainability-oriented topics and competencies should be included, and in every other subject too. That is something that, for example, in the state where the University of Vechta is located in Lower Saxony, we are doing. 3 years ago, the state government implemented a regulation saying that all public schools, also all public vocational schools in Lower Saxony, have to include sustainability in all subjects, from German to sports to math and all other subjects that are offered. So really sustainability has to become a cross-cutting issue, meaning also that there should be activities where also the subjects cooperate, etc. So it should be seen as a cross-cutting framework and not just a collection of topics. So the key message here is that if sustainability education, or also specifically blue education, remains just an add-on, it will remain marginal. So to come to an end already, and I may share more perspectives in the discussion, I would say that yes, we need, and in many contexts we still need changes in the curricula, but we also need staff training so that really competencies can be the focus, that teachers, educators, lecturers in different contexts are really able not only to convey information or transmit information, but really to implement an action-oriented pedagogy that enables the development of key competencies of the student. And therefore, we not only need the competencies of the teachers and lecturers, but we need also this cross-cutting integration, what also means that it should be part of the whole institution, as I mentioned already. Thank you very much at that moment. And yeah, I will put a link to this, the chat, to that website where we present our approach of teachers' competencies that we have developed in an European project. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marco, for your presentation, and thank you very much for putting the focus on the competency. So it's not only about, yes, the curriculum, yes, the resources and all that, but of course, all those things, they need to go hand to hand with the development of the competencies that are needed. So with this, we can move on to our discussion, and I would say let's naturally follow the thread of the presentations, which they all pretty much try to touch upon the different but quite common, as we have seen, barriers that our experts have experienced from the positions within their national context as well. So I would like us to take this opportunity to reflect a little bit more on the main barriers, bottlenecks, that we have already identified when it comes to the inclusion of blue education in the curriculum, and also what is very, very important, to try to elaborate a little bit more when it comes to solutions, changes, adaptations, and ways forward. As a reminder, we have already identified certain gaps in the teachers' professional development. We have talked about the importance of pedagogies, the importance of resources, but not all types of resources, since there seem to be a lot out there, but this relation to the curricula and to the respective learning goals. And as Marco said, the curriculum cannot be considered the solution to everything, but it is an enabler that we need to capitalize on. So with this, I'm looking to our experts again. So I don't know which one of you would like to open the floor to more reflection on the issue of barriers and ways forward.
Okay, I'm willing to start.
Thank you, Luc.
The barriers we have if I look, I think one of the main obstacles is, I think, that silo thinking. So the rigid subject structures, where it's very hard sometimes to persuade teachers to go more into a cross-curricular working. I mean, they see things about the ocean in biology, but they will never link what is also possible or what is also seen maybe in geography or economy or history even. So that's the first thing. Of course, another barrier is many curricula are now already a bit overloaded. So lack of time is a problem. And for many teachers, if it's not obligatory, well, they're not going to do it because they already have so much work. So I think what is the main barrier, in my opinion, still is the fact that although Marco said that it's not only curriculum, that's true, but this is the basis. If teachers don't see it obligatory, they have already so much, I'm not going to say excuse, but so much on their hands that they won't even think about it. The first thing is, in my opinion, still start from the curriculum and make it obligatory. And then the next thing is, of course, try to promote it, because for many teachers, the cross-curricular thinking and working in teams is difficult. Another barrier we have in Belgium is, we was also said we need to do more learning by doing, so active learning, meaning go on the field, on the terrain. But here in Belgium, this is becoming more and more hard because of the financial situation. We have more and more, due to the crisis, people who don't have it many brought in financial issues. And more schools have problems that fees are not paid by the parents. So they go on field work and then afterwards they have to pay. Well, they don't pay for it because they don't have the money. And the system in Belgium is very simple. You can't just you have to give the diploma to the students, even if the parents still have a financial, let's say, thing to pay. So there are schools now who are just forbidding to go on field work unless it costs €0. And that becomes very hard. And this is, I don't know for the other countries, but this is also an issue that we have to take into consideration. Because I'm 100% in favor of doing more learning by doing and fieldwork, etc. But we are more and more getting the feedback from schools saying we can't afford anymore.
Thank you very much, Luc, and thank you very much for raising this aspect as well, the socioeconomical aspect and the influence that it has. Okay, so your comment has raised quite some reactions. So let's move to Rita first, then Melita, and then Marco. Rita, please.
Yes. I totally agree. I think in terms of the approach, we need to combine a bottom-up with a top-down approach. We know this from the evaluation assessment that we did, that teachers love the materials, love the training, everything is great. And in the first year of the evaluation, more than 90% of the teachers were implementing the program in schools. After the fourth year, this percentage decreased to about 70%, because there are a lot of ready-to-go activities that are currently being presented to schools. And if this is not also in the curricular matrix, if it's not mandatory, they will tend to change to other programs that are ready to go. So this is something that is really important to combine. And that is why, even though that a program such as ours that integrates the ocean into the curriculum is seen by the teachers as extra work. So it should be also in the curriculum to complement this hands-on approach. And of course, the field work is great. The work outside class in the community, with the community, is great. But even when we have the municipalities as partners and we keep trying to involve them to somehow support transportation of the students to the beach and so on, even that is expensive. And even in the pilot municipalities that committed to that, it's very hard to do this with the scale that is the one that we want. So that's a problem. And also, of course, the money to bring students outside of schools and to bring them to these blue spaces that we want to be used.
Thank you very much, Rita, for adding to Luc's reflections with your experiences as well. Melita, please.
Yeah, thank you. what you just said, the bottom up and top down, I just recently wrote that in the Padlet. It's a necessity, because otherwise it cannot be addressed systematically. We need a systematic approach, and just providing resources for teachers is not that. Until recently, I was actually thinking that including this in the curricula was not necessary, because I don't know, I had some of my thoughts, but then I just recently, as I was working a little bit more with the teachers, I had a group of teachers that actually directly said that, like, if it's not obligatory, then it's not going to be done. As we all agree, it's just additional workload for them. But unfortunately, changing curricula is something that is quite complex process for each of the countries. Like in Croatia, we had a few years ago, there was like a whole educational reform at the national level. And I'm sure that it's not going to be changed in next 20 years. That's it, So maybe if possible, embedded in the curricula, yes. But if not, there has to be some other mechanism, let's say, that makes this and recognizes this Blue education as an important thing, whether it's some kind of national recommendation or some kind of something that will kind of oblige teachers to do that, but maybe in a different way, because changing curricula is too complex and time consuming. So maybe just thinking about what is the other way that we can make this Blue education obligatory, kind of as it would be in the curricula, but that it's not through the curricula, because otherwise, it just stands at the level of those couple of enthusiastic teachers, and that's it. So just this gap between and lack of connection between top-down approach and bottom-up approach has to be addressed, because otherwise it will not be achieved. And the other thing that is constantly happening in the last 15 years, as we are talking about this and ocean literacy and everything, this is the initiative that comes from marine science sector. It's not an educational initiative. It's marine science thing. And now we want to make it a part of education, because we are aware that it's a necessity for the future. This connection between marine science and education is constantly missing. We have been moving forward with this at the national, European levels, and so on. But still, it's all of these initiatives, most of them come from our marine science space, not from education. So this really needs to be connected in a better way. I don't know how. I don't know. We have some good examples, and what Rita said in Portugal, it's really amazing what you are doing there. But it also is a result, let's say, of devoted people who are doing that, but also financial construction that is behind it. So I'm sure that as for everything else, this is something that needs to have some kind of systematic approach, or from the top level at the ministries, educational ministries at the countries, that need to recognize this support and, let's say, provide some funding to do that as well. Yeah, that's it. I could talk for hours. Bye. That's it from me.
Thank you very much, Melissa. No, it was all very, very interesting. And I guess I'm keeping this kind of lack of flexibility in the adaptability of curricula that seems to be a big issue as well. But again, let's see what our experts have to say. Marco first, and then Luc and Rita.
I would like to add an additional issue. When I have been working with teachers in many teacher trainings, and first of all, often perhaps the most skilled or most enthusiastic are only taking part in these trainings, and we do not achieve the others. That may be an issue, I agree. But even with the ones that attend the training programs, I often have had the experience that they say, yes, it's getting more and more, it's sustainability, different fields of sustainability as blue topics or other forest-related, mobility-related topics. But then it's also inclusion and digitalization, etc. And what has been an important experience here in Germany recently, also in the discourse, also in the academic discourse, but also in the practice, is to bring together more inclusive digital education and sustainability-oriented education. So we have worked on frameworks that try to make visible that sustainability education as such should be and can be inclusive, and that it also can be linked, not necessarily always, but at least it can be linked to digital education, so that in teacher training and also in other practice-oriented activities, it can be seen that it not necessarily has to be one and the other, and that it gets more and more, and that teachers don't know how to do it, but that in the same moment they can work with inclusion-oriented approaches that at the same moment can be linked to sustainability and perhaps maybe also linked to digital, to elements of digitality. So that, I think, has been a quite important experience that I wanted to share here. Unfortunately, there are not so many frameworks yet, and also academic publications. There are not so many, but it is a developing field. I think in the last 3, 4, 5 years, we have seen more and more approaches coming up that try to bring together these different fields, what is very important, I think, because it makes the life of the practitioners much easier if they can see how it can be linked and brought together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marco. That's very interesting. I don't know if you have any links or anything that you would like to share with us in whatever language it is. We will adapt. Feel free to do so. This sounds very interesting. Luc, please go ahead.
Yeah, I want to come back to what was said about not making a new curriculum. I totally agree. Making a new subject, a new into the curriculum will not be possible. It's already overloaded with lots of subjects. So this is not really the solution, I think. What the first step can be done now is, like I said, and I think in many countries like this, it's very fragmented over different subjects and courses. If we can start already by making kind of an interlink by this, by just in each country looking how can we combine all these loose aspects to create a kind of a learning line per year. This could be a kind of a manual that can be given to the teachers, and it's not extra work for you. It's just think about it. If you see this, know that in another subject they will see parts of it as well. And by doing so, it might be a first step to make them more cross-curricular thinking, because this is really the biggest issue, that teachers are looking only solely to their own subject and don't see the interlinking with others. I think that's a first step, because indeed, like I said, making new curriculum is a lot of work. On the other hand, I know that in Belgium, I don't know for the other countries, but on average, every 7-8 years, the curriculum is being renewed again. So we have now a curriculum in Belgium for the secondary schools, which is about finalized 2-3 years ago. We have now a reform of the primary education. That means in 6 years' time, there will be a reform of the secondary education as well. So we are now starting to prepare the preparation of the new curricula for 5-6 years. So that's now the moment to step on the train to get it implemented.
Thank you very much, Luc. Rita.
Thank you. One thing that was not mentioned, which is very important, is to promote emotional connection with the topic. And that's what we tried to do in the very beginning with the Ministry of Education. So we also tried to show with a very convincing person, Tiago Pitecunha, our CEO, is very well connected. And so he went to the ministry, he made this operation to convince them the importance and how strategic this is for Portugal. Because this is also not just about protecting the ocean, is also about investing in a sustainable new blue economy. And that can be maybe a language that politicians might better understand. So this is very important, not just connecting emotionally with these politicians, but also the teachers need to be emotionally connected to the ocean. So maybe the digital can help in that regard. The aquariums are settings, are blue spaces in which we can help fostering this emotional connection that gets the stage to teachers for the willingness to learn more about the ocean. And also, it's important that we go to the initial training of teachers. So that's something we are training upstream younger teachers that maybe already are more open to the needs of educate for sustainable development, that may understand better this interdisciplinarity that we want to conceive for this ocean literacy. And something that was also good for us was that the Portuguese education ministry is very willing to implement new educational policies based on programs that start with civil society. And so we went there, we presented a program. They saw that we had this financial capacity to implement this pilot program and to showcase and test and evaluate and so on. And that was an added value for the credibility of what we were proposing to the Ministry of Education.
Thank you very much, Rita. Many thanks to all. As I see that the clock is ticking and we are slowly heading towards the end of the session, I would like us to try to take some questions from the chat. So Rita talked a lot about the way they approach the Ministry of Education, but there is one question when it comes to the evaluation of students. So how is the ocean literacy level of students has been evaluated? That's for you, Rita.
So we designed, the evaluation was not made by us. It was an external entity that was hired for doing that. But there was a large set of indicators for the evaluation that were validated by the Minister of Education team and the ministry, sorry. And this were not just about knowledge. So we would ask the students specific questions about knowledge of the ocean, but also indicators of perception, indicators of willingness to act. And there was a large sample of students and teachers that were involved in 6 of these pilot municipalities. And of course, then we had to change again the approach, because we had focus groups, we had students and teachers initially, but then with the pandemics, everything had to be redesigned and the approach changed. But it was a large set of indicators that was used a long time with the same students.
Thank you very much, Rita. Let's see. Also on the same topic, but I think it's something that maybe all our experts can reflect a little bit on. Rita has started already. So is how do you manage to approach actually the ministries of education? And from your experience, from your exchanges within your own context, if you feel that they were open when it comes like to blue education and its connection to the curricula and any kind of persuasive, let's say, techniques that you have used in order to get them on board. I think, Rita, you started a little bit on this, but maybe the other experts can also contribute, but feel free to start if you want to.
Well, for the situation in Flanders, there's different ways you have to use. First of all, we know the importance of oceans, certainly for Flanders, for my province, where I'm living near the coast. We see more and more the importance. We see also a lot of issues. We have this issue of the ocean as not only being for tourism, but also for economic purposes, energy transition, but also the threats we have nowadays with the geopolitical situation. These are things that make people more aware of, okay, our coast is important, oceans are important, but also vulnerable. So there's a mind shift going on, and this can help to, with also the help of institutions like the Vlies and other who are involved, to get into the Ministry of Education and to try to bring it into the learning goals that are defined by the government. Once it's there, then it's pretty easy, between brackets, to bring it into the schools, into those who are making the real school curricula. But the first thing is you have to bring it into the attention, and this is, first of all, you have the actual situation which can help. You also need to have the, let's say, the active support of individuals, but also people who have, let's say, more influence, being people from people from doing documentaries, people who are, let's say, known Flemish people, like we say. This can help. You have first to bring it into the spotlight, and once the spotlight, you have to use this momentum quickly to try to get it into the curriculum. That's how it works, I think.
Thank you very much, Luc. Marco, what about Germany?
Well,
what can be done? Yes.
Well, we have the specific situation that Germany is a federal state, so we do not have only one educational ministry, but in the end 17, because it's one national one and then 16 from the different 16 states. So that makes it that as I said before, I'm not a blue education expert, but from the perspective of sustainability, I would say that the situation is very different in the different states, and probably it's the same for blue education, as some of the states are located, for example, at the Northern Sea or the Baltic Sea. So there, obviously, it will be much easier, and probably it is integrated much more already than, for example, in Bavaria or Baden-Württemberg, so the states at the south, which are more to the mountain side, and where probably mountain-related issues are much more easier to integrate into the curriculum. And if it's about climate change, it's more about, these issue of alpine issues than ocean-related, while, as I said, in the north, that may be much easier. So I think that is something that also probably in other countries has to be taken into account, that there may be also different priorities in different provinces, departments, or also states. For the whole of sustainability, I would argue that we have seen quite strong integration in the last years, and I think there's not one ministry in Germany that is not at least promoting somehow sustainability. The question is how deep it is integrated. If it's, as I said before, only added in some points, or if it's a real change also to make possible that schools and other educational institutions really can transform and can offer transformative education. I think there's also this issue of quality. From the German context, I would say it's not at all difficult to talk with the ministries. It's not at all difficult that they do something, but that they really promote a deeper change of the educational system. That is nothing that is obvious already, I would argue.
Thank you very much, Marco. Rita?
We were very lucky in this first approach to the policymakers, because we also are lucky to have the aquarium. And so we invited the stakeholders to visit us, and through this connection with the aquarium, it's easier to showcase how important and wonderful the ocean is. And so I think, and I think the Ministry of Education, this team, was really, it understood the message. So basically, it challenged us to implement a pilot program to assess the impact, and then we would talk again. And so that's what we've done.
Great. Thank you very much, Rita. Let's see. One more question that we can try to take from the chat. There is a question asking whether is anyone aware of any country that has worked with their Ocean Decade Committee to approach this topic. Is this something that any of our experts is familiar with? No? Okay, it doesn't look like it. And then there is another question which is more on blue career. So the question is asking, has any country had any success promoting ocean jobs, so blue careers, and in turn ocean literacy through formal education with young people under 18 years and early career ocean professionals? I see Evie has raised her hand on this one. Or on the
Yeah, it
previous
was
one.
on the previous
On the previous one. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, Noreen, you asked this question, right? So in Belgium, we have a UN Decade Committee, and we will work with them to develop this roadmap, which of course will include the topic of curriculum. So, and we are very happy to share how we have done that. We will do it the next 2 months. So it will be all fresh, and we will share the results via webinar or with you personally. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Evie, for the addition and the clarification. And last question for our experts. I think Luc has started this kind of reflection in his presentation where he reflected on the level of maturity that Belgium currently is. He actually identified it. He said that's level 2. So I wanted to see if our other experts, and also Luc, feel free to elaborate a little bit more, if they want to also reflect on the maturity level of their country, and even tell us a little bit about their thoughts on what can be done, what can be the next step in order to move them up. Please go ahead.
I can just add, we are
Sure.
now, I think, in Flanders on level 2. I just got in the chat also information from a colleague from Wallonia who also said there's things done there. So it's so I'll have a look at it to see how they work on this réseauid.be website. Looks interesting to me, but I think it's challenging, but I'm quite sure, but just looking at current curriculum, by just making just the linkage between the different topics, we might quickly move maybe to more level 3, more, let's say, unofficial. And then the next step, once this is there, it will be much easier to get to a higher level, I hope.
Thank you very much, Luc, for your reflection. Evie, you wanted to add something on Belgium? Or is your hand from before?
No, it's a hand from before.
It's from before. Okay, great. Good. Okay, so let's move on to see what are the other experts are saying. Marco, do you want to reflect a bit on Germany?
Yeah, well, as I said before, it wouldn't be possible to state the level for the whole country. Again, it would be state-based. As I said before, in Lower Saxony, sustainability is an obligatory, compulsory topic, and not only topic, approach for all schools. So there I would argue we may be somewhere in between of 3 and 4 for sustainability in general. Education may be less or is less. I would argue in other states the level would be lower. And from that experience, also we have seen that since this regulation is there and all schools in Lower Saxony have to work with sustainability, the amount of teachers that take part in teacher training is much higher. The amount of students that take sustainability courses at the university level already is much higher. So one statement here from my side also would be that it is not enough to put it in national curricula well, the problem in Germany is we don't have national curricula. We again 16 different curricula, and therefore, at least in our country, it's not enough to put it on the curriculum. What is really necessary is my experience here in Lower Saxony, or what helps a lot, let's say. I don't know if it's necessary, but it helps a lot if there is a regulation saying that all schools have to work with these topics in all subjects. Because then subjects like beyond geography and biology, etc., start to think about more how to really do it and how to implement it. And I think that makes really a big change. For example, 5 years ago, I was not doing any teacher training regularly. And now it's like 5 times a year. And sometimes there are 40 teachers from all over the state taking part in an online reflection on sustainability. So I think especially this kind of regulations help a lot.
Thank you very much, Marco. That's very, very interesting. Good. And last but not least, Rita, what about Portugal?
I would say that we are between level 2 and 3, but paving the way to level 4. So I look forward to see now with this public consultation for the next month. I will totally focus on that, to trying to understand what was integrated from our previous proposal and what we can propose the next. But I already saw some of the things that we had proposed are there reflected. So I'm really hopeful that after this remodelation, this review of the essential learnings, there will be more blue in our curriculum.
Fantastic. That's a fantastic closing from all our three experts. Quite optimistic as well. Yes, there are challenges. Yes, there is bottlenecks, but there is a lot of knowledge. There are a lot of good practices. There are a lot of interesting material. The framework is also here to help on different aspects and also in terms of self reflection. So the future is optimistic.
Melita raised her hand.
Melita, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. If Portugal is between 2 and 3, that's quite depressive for everybody else. I would be 0. So I'm sure it's higher.
It's good to be modest, I guess, with these kind of things. Anyhow, so many thanks to our experts. Thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing all your expertise and your thoughts with us. Many thanks to our audience. As a reminder, don't forget that we have the Padlet. My colleagues are going to put the link or the QR code up for you as a reminder. So that remains open for at least a couple of more weeks. So feel free to reflect, to add resources, thoughts. We'll be happy to read them and take them into account. Also, don't forget to register to our community as well. So to go to our website, there you're going to find information for the 2 upcoming events, but also you're going to find the recording and a summary of what has happened up to this point. So many thanks to all. Keep on connecting. Keep it up with all your work in your different fields, and we're looking forward to connecting again with you and keep on exchanging and learning. Many thanks to all.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.